everybody, how's it going? I'm trying to allow the time to run a little bit because sometimes I will look really silly when I upload a video, and I think it's around the 10-second mark. So if you see me pause, that's why. I want to talk about the 10 commandments of dating after divorce, after children, etc. And I'm going to first and foremost say my relationship is not perfect. We have our fights, we have our disagreements, we have our discussions, we have stress and anxiety once in a while, but I think it's the learning curves that we go through, and it's me stepping out of my comfort zone and him stepping out of his. And I'll just tell you, I'm a retired Army veteran. I have been retired since the age of 47 due to the fact that I was hurt in the military, so that's that. And my husband is 5 years younger than I am. He is gainfully employed and sometimes works 7 days a week. So we are kind of like meat and potatoes. We have different ways to approach life. We have different interests, different hobbies, but together I can say he's my best friend. And so years ago, I've been married before, I'd meet women and I'd meet couples, and the wife would say, "I'm married to my best friend," and I'd be like, "Okay, whatever," because I'm not intimate with my friends, and there's a disconnect there for me. How? No, because there's a romantic partner, and then there's a best friend, and so I didn't understand all of that. But what happened was when I reframed and I came up with a new set of 10 commandments that I inscribed on a piece of paper, I decided that if I wanted a different result, I had to do things differently, and I had to take a different approach. But not only that, I had to go into therapy. I had to unwire and rewire so I could find a lifelong partner. And I realized I had been putting the cart before the horse, or I had given the milk away for free, or allowed someone to take cookies out of the cookie jar that maybe I didn't know that well. And so instead of taking a casual approach to dating, I decided to get serious and raise the bar. So the one thing I did was I raised my value and worth in this world, and I realized that I was deserving of being in a loving, kind, healthy relationship with someone who valued me as a whole and not just pieces of me. And so over time, I wrote down, someone said, write a list so you can manifest the person that you desire in your life. And so I wrote a list of about 100 things that I required in a future husband. I could say, oh, future partner, but I wanted to be in a relationship that was solidified for that person and my protection. So it was legal. I wanted a legal binding relationship that the other person was in agreement of, that would be lifelong, till death do us part, etc. And so I wrote down a list of things like someone who has my back, someone I feel safe with, someone I can communicate with, someone who values me, etc., etc., etc. But the one thing I changed was my approach to intimacy. Before, with the inception of Friends with Benefits, and I said, okay, that's fine, and I did that before for a number of years. And when that ended, I said, oh, I'm not doing this again. So I decided that I would only be intimate and allow someone to touch me that met and got along with the people that were important in my life. Now, this was years after my daughters had parted ways, and I was single for about 10 years. And so I was flying by the seat of my pants. I had great relationships. I spent time with family, with littles, I had this and that. And so I said, I'm not going to marry someone that hasn't met my family and my friends. So I was on Tinder. I swiped right, wrote a profile, and the profile said something along the lines of, I'm a hardworking guy, I'm a single father, I'm down to earth, okay, and I will never send you a dick pic. I said, that's awesome because I don't want those pictures. So we met. I immediately thought, my gosh, I feel I'm so comfortable with this person. And I finally get it. And I liked being in his space. It was different because we had real conversations and not about what's your favorite movie and what's your favorite color and this and that. It's centered around our experiences, our mindsets, his family and my family. And it just ended up being just awesome. For the first time in my life, I felt like I could exhale. And so anyways, we hung out. We had a good time. I kissed him. I took a picture of the first date. It was kind of funny. It was interesting. And so then we kept in contact. He messaged me. He said I really had a good time and really cool. And then he asked to spend time with me again. He said he had a son who was with him. I forgot their schedule, but he was working and we fit each other in. I went out to his place. He came out to my place, and we did not have sex until after he met my family. I met his family. We got along, and I knew it was going to be cohesive. I didn't want to have problems with in-laws. I didn't want to have to deal with drama and chaos and all that. And what's nice about my husband is he loves his mom, but she's not involved in his life per se. He's an adult. He does his thing, and we keep in touch. But she's not, she lives in a different state as well. But even when she was here, she wouldn't just show up and, she wouldn't show up unannounced. And so they communicate and they talk once in a while, but it's just the way it is. He had become a man and had his own life outside of his family. So our house is really quiet. So anyways, I raised the bar. I knew I had met my forever person, and I knew for the first time what it was like to have a best friend and husband. So anyways, that's all there was to it. You can do what you want. If you want a casual relationship, that's your thing. But I knew that that's not what I wanted. And that's just the way it was. So anyways, that's a suggestion. Take it or leave it, and I'll be back.